Breaking news, guys. Eulogy for Prince Harry. Reuters, November 14th, 2012. Buckingham Palace has announced World War III is imminent. MI6 and the CIA 9/11 team of experts brought in to confirm the report. An Iranian terrorist, Mohammed bin Laden, using hundreds of toy planes, has been sucked into the Apache helicopter engine intake, purchased on Iranian eBay from a cave deep in Afghanistan. The MI6 report stated the Iranian terrorist had infiltrated into the Chief of Staff headquarters, cracking the supercomputer while Colonel Sanders was in the staff canteen. They were responsible.
Is this Buckingham Palace?
Buckingham Palace were responsible. Extensive forensic proof linked by an open Koran found near Prince Harry's charred remains. The forensic team made a breakthrough when it identified paper made in Iran, printed in Iran with Iranian ink from scarab beetles' wings, had spiraled from the burned out Apache, found by a goat herder within a few hundred meters of his charred remains. England is being sued by the shepherd for killing his goat herd of 666 goats. A book entitled The Strawman Burneth was recovered in the cockpit, open on page 19, indicating Harry had failed the radar warning, thinking the incoming toy aircraft were ibis returning to Egypt, where they are worshipped as their god. Camp Bastion. Soldiers had been deployed to gun down anything resembling the ibis, to be on the safe side, shooting any agrarians with a bent nose.
I think that's supposed to be Afghani.
Is that supposed to be well, agrarians?
Well, what comes on the internet, you've got to go along with it.
Okay. Like most intelligent, righteous people who love the spirit of Jesus, do what Jesus would do. Lady Diana stood tall, relentlessly embarrassing the royal family, speaking out about landmines, visiting victims in hospitals, championed the fight against AIDS, cuddling little children with no fear for her own health. Her popularity was overpowering, but for Prince Charles, he was mortified, walking behind her through crowds, visibly shaken, his face showing emotions he could not hide. He would stroll along behind her, the crowd almost oblivious to his presence, ignoring him as her admirers reached out to touch and shake Lady Diana's hand. Unknown to the general public, a dark, sinister side to Charles, a secret. He, a brutally uncaring, sarcastic, loveless monster, his adultery known to just a few. But Diana had realized soon after their marriage he was in love with Camilla, driving Diana into a state of deep depression. Diana had sought compassion from James Hewitt. Her affair was punishable by beheading, which is still the prerogative of the royals. But danger lurked from a more sinister force, the corporate world, her strawman account. In 1981, Yahweh worked for an electrical contractor in Sacramento. He had been sent via the IBEW union to wire up cash registers. Each time a customer paid at the cash register, the purchased product is reordered and credit card approved. The manufacturer or supplier would instantly receive the sale, begin the resupply process, and often be loaded into a truck for resupply or home delivery. Items like lounges, refrigerators, etc. are heavy items. In this case, it was Sears Roebuck, the company actually owned by the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Now, they own the Encyclopedia Britannica. They own it.
Oh, Sears, sorry, take it all back, guys. So Sears Roebuck owned Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, Yahweh's hobby since 1967 was actually reading the Britannica. In it, he discovered the details of the beheading of Charles I. However, no surprise, they had changed the day from a Saturday to a Wednesday. Suspicious, they were rewriting history, I discovered the Zionist had changed many things. King Charles was beheaded on a Saturday, January the 30th, 1649. Yahweh was reborn 107726 days after his murder. And as the most school children are aware, the number 1077.26 in feet is the diagonal of the completed Great Pyramid in Egypt. And Yahweh says he's going to digress for a moment. Now, this could lead us off into Never Never Land. Okay.
Because you're totally unaware.
Oh, yeah, I'm reading this for the first time, guys. So, you know, if I get this look on my face, it's because he's gone off. All right.
Well, I'm a bit off, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. All right. Yahweh's parents owned a house. The address is number 7 Travone Street,
I think I should
Padstow,
get
Sydney.
something. You go ahead.
Oh, keep going? All right.
Keep going.
The family of Yahweh himself, Jesus, came from Cornwall, England. In fact, the tin mines were owned by Joseph of Arimathea. Yahweh searched and found a Travone Road in Padstow, Cornwall. It is 107726 point... No, sorry.
0.26.
107726 miles from Yahweh's parents' home. Latitude, UK, north 50 degrees, 32 minutes, 696 seconds. West, 4 degrees, 58 minutes, 0.754 minutes to Australia. Second. What are you doing? Oh, he's protecting himself. He'll show you the bruise later that I didn't even know like this. He's got a bruise. All right. Now, moving right along. Australia latitude, south 33, 57208 by east 5102.379. You right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure that's the right?
You can go for it now.
Okay, where are we now?
Travone in Padstow in England.
All right, we're doing this split screen, so we're looking at a little map that you'll see when Joel uploads this, okay?
Just a couple little miracles coming in. There it is, the diagonal of the Great Pyramid.
Right, so...
Oh, carry on.
Now, getting back to the Sears Roebuck and the wiring of the cash registers, each time you or anybody purchases a product, you carry home the mark of the beast on every item. The hidden 666 in every barcode is the fine lines at each end and the center. Yahweh worked in Sacramento, California for a construction company installing the cash registers that we just told you about, wiring linked to a supercomputer.
It was quite complicated. They didn't have people in the union hall that could do it. So I said, yeah, right, I'll do it. And that was how I learned about the
Mark of the Beast.
Mark of the Beast.
Now this alerted to Yahweh how the matrix of the system works. Scanning credit cards for payment, MasterCard pockets 5%, the computer reorders the items, etc. If a large item like a refrigerator required home delivery, the order communicated to a giant warehouse unmanned forklift in the warehouse. Giant unmanned forklift in the warehouse. It moves to a pigeonhole bin arrangement several stories high, selects the item, delivering it to a loading dock for delivery.
This is 1981.
And you'll see on the screen when the 666 barcode. We've uploaded on this before several times, so. Now the barcode system is owned by the Rothschild bankers. MasterCard is owned by the Queen. One could say that if you have any product in your home, you have the 666 sitting on the pantry shelf. Revelation 13:17, quoting, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. 7 times the mark of the beast is mentioned. The verse numbers a modern time innovation. Revelation 14:9, quoting, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. Now 149 in the Greek dictionary is a shameful thing, shame. Also, we've got reference in Revelation 14:11, 15:2, 16:2, 19:20 and 24. One can read the concordance numbers, which all point to evil, dishonesty, etc. But the telling tale is in the 7th mention of the Revelation, 204. 204 in Greek is the capstone of the Great Pyramid, and in Hebrew it is the city of On in Egypt, the focal central point of a circle of evil the world system is based upon. We'll explain the concordance for those who are unaware of what it is directly. The next slide is the Greek and Hebrew. Now in Greek, 204, from 206 and 1137, belonging to the extreme corner, chief corner. Hebrew 204, or shortened On, or On, of Egyptian derivation, On, a city of Egypt. Joseph, the 11th son of Jacob, Israel, married the daughter of the high priest of On, pronounced On. Her name, Asnath, is numbered 621, and time is based on that number. How? The moon is the timepiece of celestial time, a lunation being 29.53052 days, and as such the moon confirms time or moon cycles between his birth as Jesus and his rebirth today. The dates, June 17th, 2 BC and January the 11th, 1944. 24,050, so that's 24050 lunations, which will be explained in detail directly. Now Joseph was set upon by his older 10 brothers. They later became the tribes of Israel under King Solomon. He is the beast, 666. Joseph married the daughter of the high priest On, had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. The 10 sons conspired to kill Joseph, for he was favoured by Jacob, Israel, to inherit. The 10 brothers had all proven to be evil in Jacob's eyes. Thrown into a pit, his coat of many colours was dipped in the blood of a kid goat, shown to Jacob as proof he had been torn to pieces by a beast. Judah saved him from the dry well he had been cast into to die, and sold him into slavery, into Egypt. Now the slide I'm looking at is a photograph of the Holy Bible, King Solomon's temple in masonry. A lovely picture there. And the opening page is all about Solomon's temple, he the beast. And of course it reads, the Holy Bible, containing the Old and New Testaments, translated out of the original tongues, and with the something translations, I can't read that.
Original, I think.
And with the former translations, diligently compared and revised. It's just because the text
changed,
is small.
Revised means change.
Yes. Anyway, it's the great light.
The Bible is primarily bullshit, so don't worry about any changes and so forth. It's all in the numbers and the codes. Now, the temple, this is the point. From the sea to the temple is 31.68 miles. Lord Jesus Christ.
1 Kings 3:1, quoting, and Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David, until he had made an end of building his own house, and the house of the Lord, and the wall of Jerusalem round about. And there's a photograph, well, a picture, not a photograph. These are artists' impressions, aren't they, of Solomon's temple, all out of the Freemason Bible.
But right beside the temple is a Queen's citadel.
Yes.
It's the Pharaoh Queen, right? Pharaoh's daughter, right?
Yes, and there's the temple of the Lord.
Now.
Okay. Here we go. This is one of the opening pages. Well, it is the opening page. The builders of King Solomon's temple. For the construction of King Solomon's temple, 3 grand master masons, 3,300 master masons, 80,000 fellow craft masons, and 70,000 entered apprentice masons were employed.
Now, the only difference between the King James Bible that you sit there being bullshitted to from the pulpit is all this is not in it.
Yeah.
The entire thing is exactly the same
Exactly.
as the King James Bible, except it hasn't got the reference.
It just
to
has
Solomon
Holy
in the
Bible
front.
on the front, goes straight into it without any of the 80 pages about Solomon's temple in front of it. Oh, here's a picture of the house of Pharaoh's daughter. You going to build me a house like that?
Why not?
My goodness, it's big enough to fly an aeroplane through. Anyway, King Solomon's wife or queen. King Solomon's temple and...
When you think with
citadel.
all this and this fantastic amount of money they spent on this thing, building it over 12 or 30 or 40 bloody years to do it, they'd know a fucking name, wouldn't they? They don't mention her
They
name.
don't mention her name.
It doesn't exist. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
This is, of course, the other bullshit thing that we sent to the Queen.
All right, that's Yahweh's declaration and notice of claim to the throne of England.
This was
which is the
done
throne of
because of
David.
the FBI agent that come out and he insisted that we do it. So I said, righto.
Well, yeah,
So, right.
Yahweh.
I don't suck up to anybody. Right?
It's all about going down the path that others suggest and bring it on Lucifer, continuing. Anyway, a lot of publicity. She got it.
So let's go back to Joseph.
Joseph grew and found favor with the Egyptian Pharaoh, who gave him his wife Asnath. Solomon, centuries later, married one Egyptian woman from 1 Kings 3:1. And Solomon made affinity with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and took Pharaoh's daughter and brought her into the city of David until he had made an end of building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall of Jerusalem round about. Now, Greek dictionary 131, so that's 1 Kings 3:1, 131, from 129 and 4482 means to flow blood, that is, have a hemorrhage, diseased with an issue of blood. The blood of the kid goat is why Bush, George Bush Jr., was telling a story about a goat to the school children when the Twin Towers were brought down on September 11th. Now, why September 11th, 2001? Mary conceived naturally of Joseph ben Jacob Israel on September 11th in the year 3 BC. That is why it was the conception date of God Almighty, round 1. To be born June the 17th, 2 BC.
By the way, on the 17th of June 2 BC, Jupiter and Venus was in a very rare eclipse called a conjunction. And the rise above the Bethlehem horizon was 800, being 800 in the morning, and 801, which is Venus, which then 1 minute later caught up with Jupiter for an eclipse. So this is the kid goat here.
All right. Now, we've got kid in the Hebrew dictionary. It's the number 8163 from 8175. Shaggy as a noun, a he-goat by analogy, a fawn. Devil, goat, hairy, kid, rough, satyr, devil. Now, where was
This
Bush?
is off the internet, right?
Okay, there's a title of a YouTube. Where was Bush on 9/11? Get ready, YouTube. Want to hear about this goat? I always wonder what he tells. George, killed by someone in a school book depository. Satanic ritual by George W. Bush equals Revelation 9. And there he is. Oh, God. What a pathetic.
Sitting there. And what this video tells you on the internet is that, or on YouTube, is the men come in and say, first tower's down. And he sits back and he's still yapping on about the goat. And then a little while later, whatever it was, he's told again.
Now, the nations of Europe are the 10 brothers of Joseph. Joseph, England, while Manasseh is America, and Australia is the younger brother, Ephraim. The name Ephraim in Hebrew means Bethlehem. So we see the importance of Joseph finally reunited with his father when the old man comes to him in Egypt, lies dying in a tent blind.
Okay, that's where the bullshit starts again. You've got an old man, maybe 120 years old in those days, and he makes his way over to Egypt, where his other sons have been sent to buy provisions off Egypt, who by then, Joseph, being a smart man, had stored away in the great silos corn and wheat, and they had lots. So when the famine had hit, Israel was starving. So he made the journey of 250 to 300 miles, and when he gets there, he's so knackered, he's laying in a tent and he's blind. And then he's reunited with his son, who brings along his two boys, which is the sons that are going to be blessed to inherit.
Okay.
You read that one yet?
Well, I'll go. So we see the importance of Joseph finally reunited with his father when the old man comes to him in Egypt, lies dying in a tent, blind, blesses the... We did
Joseph,
already.
I did.
Yeah. Blesses the two grandsons, crosses his arms, and blesses the younger son, Ephraim, because Australia is where Christ would be reborn.
Of course, Joseph complains to his father that you blessed the wrong son. You should bless the older one. But of course, he blesses the younger one. Crosses his arms and put his right hand on the head of the younger.
Now, moving right along, all Protestant churches are Freemasonry, all 36,000 denominations.
Separate denominations, fighting each other.
Yeah.
They're all right.
Now, Matthew 12:25, quoting, "And Jesus knew their thoughts and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand." 1225 in the Greek dictionary from 1223 and 906 is to traduce, accuse.
That's what I'm doing, accusing them.
So the Bible, the 1611 KJV only, is a Freemason manipulation, translated by 47 Freemason scholars. Moses is its Egyptian connection, then Joseph, and then Solomon. It's all to do with the manipulated Jesus to lure Christians to follow the Torah of Babylonian invention, as it is in the numbering system of Babylon, it based on the number 6. So when we read Revelation 13:18, the concordance numbers imply 666, but is in fact 6, 5516, 100, 5516, 60, 5516, and 6, 5516. So it's 6666. And there are 6,666 verses in the KJV with the word Lord. The Quran is also tagged with 6666, made up of 6,666 lessons.
So the Quran itself was manufactured by the same forces, this time, of course, Rome.
Back to Lady Diana. She'd been set up from birth. She had no idea what fate awaited her. Her affair with James Hewitt was punishable by beheading, still on the law books of the royals today, but danger lurked from a more sinister force, the corporate world. Each time you purchase a product, you carry home the mark of the beast on every item. It was simply a matter of time before she learned that the AIDS virus was an invented germ warfare weapon with a patent number 4647773. Google the US Health Department and the AIDS patent. Modern search engines used supercomputers advanced to a point they could backdoor the US Patent Office. That's how Yahweh found it. And there's a lovely screen capture of the United States patents 4647773, Gallo, AIDS, eugenics, and the future. Oh, King Henry VIII, I just read something today. Some despicable thing that he did. He...
I can't get more bloody despicable.
all right. Yeah, you can, yes. well, I'll read this and then I'll tell you as it comes back to me. King Henry VIII had syphilis, which Yahweh imagines is why his young 15-year-old bride found love with a young lad who was around 16 years of age. The lad was beheaded. Then, as she was led to the same fate, his head was in plain sight impaled on a spear. A wife of a king is guilty of treason if she is caught in adultery. Had she become pregnant and kept quiet, saying the father was the king, the royal genetic tree was endangered. Just bringing back, he had a man dismembered in plain sight, hung. He was hung up and then...
It's called drawn and quartering.
Yeah, in front of everybody. I forget what his crime was.
It's a Freemason death.
Yeah, something innocuous made in public. Oh no, it was over to do with he was the Archbishop of Malmesbury, and he was protecting the goods and implements in Glastonbury.
Yeah,
the abbey
right,
there.
that's right.
And he.
It's interesting about Glastonbury and Tara in Ireland. It's the Freemasons have been trying to get into it. Rome tried to get into it. Rome tried to take Glastonbury, couldn't. Why? There were 60 universities, and if you're all wondering where I was from early ages on, we would sail back and forwards. Joseph of Arimathea had hundreds of ships bringing tin and copper from Cornwall in the area, and going around Glastonbury, which is a matter of stopping there. And that's where all the universities were. So I taught there. It wasn't in India, all these places.
Now, of course, that's in the reading. That
if I couldn't go by boat, I wouldn't walk across the street.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't. Now, they named it the New Jerusalem because of the rumour and legend that you had walked those hills on your way to with your uncle.
That's right. How did that happen?
Now, did we, what was that?
The concordance. Didn't you read the last one?
I don't think I did. I saw a 9-4. Now, as said, using the Freemason protocol of numbers derived from the King James 1611 Bible, the James Strong, this is where the James Strong exhaustive concordance, we can pinpoint the date and distance from a solar eclipse to any location on the Earth. For example, on November the 14th, 2012, the eclipse occurring along the 25° south latitude. When you measure the distance to Yahweh's family home, it will be 942 miles. Now, Yahweh was in his crib until the family moved for 942 days. And the crib, of course, was 105 Rothschild Avenue, Rosebery, Sydney. That was the manger in Bethlehem today. The concordance can be found in every library in the English-speaking world. There are 8,674 Hebrew words and 5,624 Greek words.
I should mention too that between the numbers 3202 and 3303 have been removed entirely from the... So what it's saying in there, the explanations of words, is very, very damaging to the Bible scholars. And so therefore they got rid of it.
Yeah. Now the problem is the same demonic force owns it. So Yahweh simply allowed the Bible scholars to build their own gallows. And with it, they interwove a demonic agenda thinking they can outsmart the return of Jesus. But this time the Holy Ghost being Yahweh, God Almighty. And the next slide is a photograph of the concordance. There it is. Yahweh has for decades been revealing how the King James 1611 Bible has within it a complete plagiarization of the Aramaic Essene Gospels. Although hundreds of years earlier, they too, far from accurate as to what he really said, most of it invented as the ancient Aramaic that Yahweh spoke, has an understanding not translatable in other languages. So how do we unmask and trap the beast? First, let's look at the total words within the dictionary. There are 8,674 words in the Old Testament and 5,624 in the New. Logic tells us that we have a math formula. Simply subtract 5624 from 8674 and The remainder is 3050. In other words, the Greek has less words, and the number 3050 in Hebrew is Yah, the sacred name of God, and its Yah is not mentioned at all in the New Testament. And there's just one mention in the Old Testament from Psalm 68 verse 4, reading, "Sing unto God, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Yah, and rejoice before him." Now that verse has a value of 1057, and in the Greek is the word Galilean of Galilee, or Jesus. Luke 23 verses 5 to 6, quoting, "And they were the more fierce, saying, He stirreth up the people, teaching throughout all Jewry, beginning from Galilee to this place. When Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked whether the man were a Galilean, the jurisdiction of Herod, so he was sent to him for judgment." The number 8674 times a solar year of 365.2424 days is 3168112. So, well, all ancient languages have alphabets that are numbers. An example is the Great Pyramid. It is 454.5 feet high. Or the book of Isaiah tells us where it is and how high in pyramid inches, using just 30 Hebrew words. Its base laid out at 36524.24 equals 100 years if each inch were a day.
So it's only read from the 100-year period, or slightly less than that, scholars have been wondering that this is a Bible in stone because of the accuracy and the numbers, etc., and it's been studied for 400 years. However, the base is 36524.24, which is a period of time which wasn't used in those days. They had a 360-day calendar, and this is just how it was. So the builders were these giant men. They were called the shepherd kings because they looked after their people like the Lord looks after the sheep. And they came, these giant men, directly descended from Noah, the Shemite. Now, I should add that the Jews today have reversed it all. They become the Shemite, you become the dog, and are totally worthless as a human being because you are now a Gentile. This is what the Bible does for you. No pulpit of the 36,000 churches, let alone denominations, let alone thousands and thousands of churches in each denomination, will tell you anything that we are telling you. They won't tell you how to cure AIDS or malaria and all these kinds of things. Nor will they mention me, even as they get away from the silly old bastard because he's saying he's God, eh?
Oh, mind you, the dude did in Nundy.
Oh, after they made a foolish mistake of letting us get up on the pulpit.
Yes. Oh, we started curing people. And then we also started telling them about the evil of tithing while their families are going without.
The guy that was in charge of the church was on a military base, and he had been responsible for trying to assassinate the Bainimarama, who was also a lunatic, but he rules that country with an iron fist, and he got 40 years jail for that. Anyhow, he eventually got out and became...
After 7 years.
Yeah, he became Christianised in jail, and therefore he started his own church, trying to get on the good side of Bainimarama. And when he was there, he had to go down once a week or something, all the way to Suva,
parole,
on his parole. So he had to drive down once a week. Because his parishioners were paying for that, so he didn't want to lose the tithing, right?
He was the assistant pastor. Okay, there's another picky, the Great Pyramid Text of Scriptures. This is, which book is this from?
This is Isaiah 19, 19, 19, 20. You got the 30 words which total the number which is up to the rejected capstone. In other words, the present structure has been measured meticulously, and then Adam Rutherford, who was one of the measurers of it, he discovered that by doing an accurate measurement, it was exactly the same as the Isaiah word total in Hebrew.
Now, Yah at 3050 is the missing or rejected capstone. On top of the pyramid, 5448 pyramid inches high, we add the 30.50 feet which is 366.012 British inches. Convert to pyramid inches, we divide 366.012,
That's British.
divided by 1.001.06 equals 365.62. And add that to the 5448 pyramid height today, it equals 581.
Now, at the time of Elizabeth, people like Isaac Newton and Greaves and all these astronomers had been out there. They knew that all the measurements of Britain come out of the Great Pyramid. And there's a slide down here we'll get to, and I'll show you that. However, they altered the length of the inch. So all nations have a system where they have the speed of light and have each measurement they have for areas, or for distances, or for heights and so forth. And originally the British inch was 1.00106 of the present US or British inch. The British have changed, of course, all the metric system now, so they don't want people to be any wiser, because people are growing up and being dumbed down with the foods and the fluorides and the pineal gland and all this kind of thing that they target so that you can't sleep or dream. What they're doing is removing any knowledge of how the young people in England would be able to measure the pyramid, because they're all into metric now, and young kids just don't know the difference between, or can they convert, or do they care? So we have the solar year at 36524.2 according to the pyramid measures. Men like Bezizy Smythe from Scotland Royal, they don't take it any further than that. So it can be calculated to reveal its height with the rejected or missing capstone as follows: 36524.2 divided by pi equals 11626. Now that's the width of the antechamber, which we'll get to in a moment, times 2 gives you 5813.0069. So they're slightly out, but it's only a tiny amount. It's a hair's breadth. Now, where I live with Mary Magdalene, the distance around the Earth is 31680 kilometres, Lord Jesus Christ in Greek, and it's 5813 kilometres from the South Pole. Hello. Not that hard, is it?
Another diagram of the pyramid.
This is showing a pyramid at 5448.7360, so they round it to either 5448 or 5449. Down the bottom you see the calculations when you get to that drawing. So the base in P inches is 100 years, then it is obvious it is a prophecy in stone built 4,900 years ago to be revealed by Christ in the end time. Today we have supercomputers, laser measuring devices, global positioning, satellite navigation, plus 400 years of investigation by the British and the French. Its measurements are more and more profound as we go further in time with the exposure, because we also get into the atomic structure of the different materials used. To give an example, the King's Coffer, exactly half of it is drilled out by a pressure of several tons of a drill that was being pushed down. We're talking 4,900 years ago, and they drilled out exactly half its mass. Now, to do that is an extraordinary feat. So what we have then is measures to 10,000ths of a point. In other words, if you were measuring something, you might say it's 537.02149. That's how accurately they measured these things. And they found that it's so accurate that when these stones were put on the outside of the pyramid, they were alabaster, different to the limestone within, pure white. And it would shine, and if ever the Americans went to the moon, which they didn't, they'd be able to see the pyramid shining in the moonlight. So what we have then is they're so accurate, they say it's more accurate than optical grinding of your glasses, which I don't really need, I just think they look good. Okay, so we have, what's that say? Okay, carry on.
All right. Brings us back to Mary Magdalene. She's been reincarnated as a simple-minded woman who slobbers Coke and chocolate day after day watching mystery reruns.
Columbo was one of the favourites, and that other one in England, what was it? Summer, something like it. Midsummer.
I don't know, babe.
Huh? Midsummer Murders, that's it. We have an expert on television over here. And now, she would forget. I'd see this thing over and over and over again, and by the 20 times you see something over and over again, you probably know what the plot is. But Michelle never did. She would wait till the very end. Oh, right, surprise, surprise. Columbo solved it. Huh? Oh, dear.
Now, the scriptures go that you changeth not. You're the same then as you are today, and vice versa.
I'm an arsehole today, and I was then.
It was the rock of offence. So the soul doesn't change. I'm the same as I was then, the mouth from the south, Martha. Right?
I'm not saying nothing, I'm bruised already.
Oh, he is too. All right, so Mary Magdalene then is the same today.
I thought I'd change glasses because some old lady stopped me in the street the other day and said, you look better in these glasses, so I'm not going to wear the thick one.
Okay. Now, needless to say that Michelle's only contribution to saving the billions upon the earth is her own birth date and that of her daughter Rhiannon, who gave birth to 2 daughters, each child very bright, and their births align with Yahweh's age. Trinity Lee will be 8.8888 years old on Yahweh's 69th birthday.
The oldest daughter, Alaska, she, when she was just little, she said to me, I used to be your mother. Well, there you go.
Now, Yahweh and Mary, Michelle today, lived at Unit 4, number 150 Nell Street in Greensboro, Australia. The distance to the South Pole from that address, 5,813 kilometres. The finished height of the Great Pyramid.
That is with the rejected capstone in place. Now, there's a reason why the capstone is rejected. We'll get to it in a moment, but what happened was they laid it out on 4 cornerstones, and each stone was roughly 16 feet by 8 feet. And they chipped fine lines, and then when you join all the fine lines up, you'd have 36524.24 pyramid inches around. So it gives you 100 years if each inch represents a day, which it does. And then they shrunk it in by 286.1. So when we get into the pyramid, which I haven't done too much here, everything is based on the displacement factor. No pyramidologist talks about it. They have no idea. If they talk about it, they're identifying me. This is a problem. You'll never get a book printed if you say anything about what I'm saying.
Protocol 14, we shall forbid Christ.
Absolutely.
Okay, now getting back to Mary Magdalene, Michelle. She
wasn't quite...
Oh, weren't you done? Sorry.
So, the 286.1 number is the key, identifies Solomon as 6666. And we'll get to that shortly. But my stepdaughter, Rhiannon, was born when Michelle was 32.75 years old. My youngest daughter, Nicole...
From your first wife.
From my first wife, don't remind me. 777 days younger than Nicole. And my eldest daughter, from Eileen, was 11.626 years older than Rhiannon. So we have now the 11626 number. We have, that is the width of the antechamber, 116.26. Now what you've got is your genetic door, and that is the antechamber. Unless you can get through that and make it absolutely 100% slam dunk, then this is what I had to do. So I had to find these people because Michelle is 11.62.6 days younger than I. And I married Eileen, my first wife, when I was that number in weeks, 1162.6 years. 1162.6 weeks old. So we have these numbers. You'll see it when it comes up. And that's all found. Those numbers are found in 1 Chronicles 5:13. There's 7 names in there. The total is 31101 divided by the 7 names, because we've now got a mathematical formula. That's what we're looking for. And it averages 4443, and that's how many times the word God is found in 3877 verses, and that's the distance to the South Pole from the maternity ward where I was born. Not that hard, is it?
No.
There's the age she was there, 32750, but this time it is a difference in time between the first solar eclipse, represented by the top of the first layer of masonry, to the 222nd, which is the 14th of November this year. And the distance from both of those, from the last one, is 942 miles, because you calculate from the angle where the moon is sharpest crossing the sun at the 25 degree latitude south and 25 degree latitude north. Now what happens is this: the sun goes like that roughly. The moon is either coming up or going down, depending on the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, but where it crosses is quite an acute angle, so you get a very, very accurate point. The reason we go for 25 there is because the Great Pyramid is that number in years wide. So it's got 913106, which is the fullness of the pyramid. It's laid out on the chipped stones on the corners. So we've got 9131.06 divided by the solar year, and it gives you 25 years. And that number repeats itself quite the whole way through. The 25th of January 1944 was in the northern hemisphere, just below the pyramid, on the 25 degree latitude, and it was 8,888.8 miles. Now I say this thing quite openly. Get it and do it yourself. I'll give you all the numbers. I'll even send you the software. You can do it yourself. It's called Magellan, which is one of the largest GPS manufacturers in the world, and they're accurate to within a few metres. I'll guarantee you that the one that Prince Harry would be flying on, it'd be guaranteed that it would be accurate to within half an inch. Not that hard, is it? So there it is there. On this next one we show Google Earth. We see New Zealand is 888 miles from the top of the latitude of the North Island to the South Island. That is Jesus in Greek gematria. It shows the maternity ward to the South Pole, 3877 nautical miles, which is God, verse total, and in it is 4443 times the word God is found. So in other words, in some verses it's mentioned more than once. Now we have from my birth crib, I can still remember being trapped in it, 3875 nautical miles to the South Pole, and that is the word comforter. Now the comforter is the Holy Ghost. So the Holy Ghost is Yahweh, Jesus' ghost, which is the soul of myself, and that is why manifesting today you've got Yahweh that wants you. So Freemasonry, watch it. Okay, now we've got also the 5813 kilometres from Nell Street to the South Pole. Don't measure with Google Earth. It's bullshit. Here we have time spans. We have the distance from that solar eclipse and the days that I spent incarcerated there in this little... I remember kicking the shit out the slats, you know, trying to get out. This little clock. True, I broke them out. My mother was great at that. She'd dump you in there, leave it there for days. No heart. Anyhow, 942 days old, we moved. It was the 222nd day of the year. It was the 10th of August in 1946. So on the date, which I haven't got here, but I'll tell you, so I like doing that. On June the 17th, which is the same as June the 17th 2 BC, my birth is Jesus, the sunlight, I was 888 days old on June the 17th, 1946.
In case you've missed it, 888 is Jesus in Greek gematria.
Didn't I mention that?
No.
My brother is 8.88 years older than I. His hobbies was lazing about, going to brothels and molesting children. Now Tracy, as shown here, when she was born in Port Alberni, I was 8,880 days old, and the sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes. She was conceived, I was there at the time, 280 days earlier, was the 27th of July 1967, and this Jupiter was above for 888 minutes. Now Jupiter is 88,880 miles wide. If you look it up in any science, it'll say 88,790 or something like that. It's gas. They don't want to mention the 888 number. Okay. Where are we up to? Next slide is I married Ireland. It shows you what I was talking before. I was 1162.4, or it's actually 4 days of 7 days, so that's how they do it. So it's 1162.6. That is in days 8138. Below that, we've got Michelle, who is 1163. That's all we can do, but when you do the hours that she was born, it's actually 1162.6 days between her birth and my birth. Then on the other side, we've got Rhiannon, her daughter, born on the 20th December in Geelong. The sunlight was 888 minutes for Geelong. And we have May the 4th, 1968, which is my eldest daughter, born in Port Alberni, Canada, on Vancouver Island. Sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes. It is 606 and 5 days. And if you multiply that by 4, it gives you 2424, which is Jesus in the Greek concordance. It's not that hard, is it? So although showing thousands of miracles, not one member of my family believed anything I revealed, and in fact made a joke of it. I was totally stunned and have been and still am by their stupidity. Here's the antechamber. The little circle on the left is a 116.26 wide, and there's a king chamber on the right. And you'll see that where the coffer is, it's 5813 from the wall on both sides. So it's saying the length of the antechamber, 116.26, and it's going to 0.03 pyramid inches, is equal to the diameter of a circle whose circumference is 365.24, and they go to 235 inches. So the Great Pyramid is so accurate it defies modern understanding, yet Zionist media promotes it as a tomb of a pharaoh built by hapless Egyptians, peasant farmers. This is so stupid a notion that truth of ancient historians speak of giant white-skinned men, 7 feet tall, long hair, blue eyes, invaded Egypt and with simply the power of their minds overcame the Egyptians. Now, Kukulkan in South America and up through into the Yucatan, there's pyramids built down there. They were also built, according to the natives, which I've spoken to, by these huge 7 foot tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, led by a man who had silver hair. Have we heard that before? Blue eyes. It wasn't that big. He's about 6'2" and 222 pounds, I believe.
74.8 inches.
Now, if you take my height and multiply it by my year I was born, that is the height of the pyramid. You've got 1944 times my height, which is
8
what?
inches.
74.8.
0.83.
0.83. Times that, it gives you the height of the pyramid. So 1944 times my height. There are 222 truths in the Bible, and there's 222 wisdoms. And that's how many times, well, that's my body weight, especially in Canada, and I can go and get on the scale right now,
And the
which we
time
did
you
last
were
week.
born,
The
the
time
hour.
I was born in the morning, my mother was very, very fanatical. She was indeed fond of numbers, could name every racehorse that won a race and what the jockey wore and what kind of weather was, and she was brilliant. In fact, the funny thing happened, she would come home with 25-cent bets, and she'd come up with $200 or $300 a time. So I thought, I'll follow her up the street. Whatever she bets on, I'll put $100 on her. Right? Come up with a fortune. She lost every race.
The one that he paid
the one I place the bets on, everything lost, right? So we have angelic powers working against me. Carry on, darling.
All right. Zionists.
Where's that plastic?
Which plastic? Oh,
One on the
sorry.
protection.
Here, do you want some coconut water? Okay. Now, the Zionists are the demonic evil shielding truth.
Just tell me when you can hit me and I'll put it somewhere. Right?
I'm so
Right
sorry.
there. Right.
It's got this bruise that you want to show everybody? It's still there.
Right.
I said I did it. I don't remember it. But oh, look, it's horrible.
Just sitting beside him there, whack! The sharp, pointy little thing. Lucky he didn't do it with a bloody nose, isn't it? I wouldn't be able to walk. Go ahead.
All right. The Zionists are the demonic evil shielding truth with relentless documentaries on how, why, for whom, as a tomb, of that the former is the truth. Huge men from Palestine, descended from angels, demonstrated to the peasants it would be useless to oppose them. The first thing they did was close down temples and taught one God.
Hmm.
No.
I should also mention that people often say, oh, who did Cain marry? He married a fallen angel. Absolutely. So that's where that it's a parable, right? And so you could say, well, where did these huge men, who did the offspring of Noah marry? After all, he had his daughters, or rather sons, had wives and had children. Who did they marry? Each other? No. They married good angels. Because you could do that sort of thing in those days. That's what angels were for.
As a matter of fact, the description of when Noah was born, that his father Lamech was really, really concerned. And Lamech went to Methuselah and goes, oh my God, you should see, what have I brought forth? He was actually terrified of, because of the whiteness and brightness and the eyes. That they describe it like the sun shone out of his eyes.
Funny you should say that. My brother is actually related to me, and the sun used to shine out his ass, according to my father. So it's close, isn't it?
Okay.
The one-eyed.
All right, now they taught the one God. So one might suspect the media and governments are under some form of mind control called Zionism. Okay.
Oh,
No,
I was looking at them, so.
Now, moving right along to the altar to the Lord from Isaiah 19, verses 19 and 20. It's a direct reference to the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt. Its location on the border between Upper and Lower Egypt, as well as being the geographic centre of the earth landmass. That is, if all continents were pushed back together as one land mass. Quoting, in that day there shall be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. Reading right along, and it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. For they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors, and he shall send them a saviour and a great one, and he shall deliver them.
God himself.
The stars are all about predicting the coming of the Lord in the end time. The descending passage of the pyramid points to the North Star Polaris. Beside it is a star called YBS 0286, which is the number in pyramid inches the structure reveals in the height of the largest chamber, the Grand Gallery. Because it is located at slightly below 30 degrees north latitude, from within the passage 300 plus feet or 100 metres. The passage is like a telescope, always looking at this location. The actual measure is 286.1 pyramid inches. 2861 in Hebrew is the word espousal, as in future wife.
Now, I should also mention that when they was putting the concordance together, that was a no shit moment, because it's only mentioned twice, right? So they put an S on the end of it, so you wouldn't find it. I found it. So this drawing shows you the pointing out to YBS 2860. The entrance itself is 286.1 pyramid inches off centre, westward. The base shows you here, when you look up close on it, is showing the 365.24 less the 286.1, and that's where the structure started. So when you get to the top, it's going to be 286.1. It can't go any higher than the 454.5 feet, because that's the value in Isaiah in Hebrew in inches. So what that means is if you was to fill in all the mountains into the valleys of the earth, push all the land masses back together, which they actually worked this out in 1978 in a geodesic year or something they called it, you would have a land mass average height the same as the pyramid. Missing, the earth is missing God, right? Which is a 3050 number, which converts to 30.5 feet. So this is so fantastic that it has to be kept quiet. Here we have the displacement factor. It shows you a block under the corner of the pyramid. It's called the espousal line, which I've done, of course, and it shows you where the actual structure and the alabaster stones is 144,000 with an average weight of 7 tons, representing the book of Revelation, Revelation 14, 3 and 4, mentioning 144,000 saints. Right? So they just moved it in for that reason. So you're always looking for why did they do something that was not obvious. Well, when they do things like that, it is to show you that no one can work it out, because everyone who is going to try to do it is not going to have the actual nous to be able to do it, because they're denied. It's for me to explain. So the Hebrew Dictionary 2861 is the word kathunah from 2859, a wedding espousal. Okay. Where is it found? Solomon 3:11. Remember that number, 3:11. Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousal, in the day of the gladness of his heart. Now, Solomon became king because his mother was an adulteress, so therefore the line was tainted. And when the old man, David, was laying in bed, in his tent or wherever he was, Bathsheba went in and said that if you allow the rightful king, which was son by his Haggith, wasn't it?
Adoniah.
Adoniah was his name.
Haggith, yes.
It means worshipper of Jah. Okay? And you'll find the word Jah in the explanation of the names, Adonai, Jah, and all this kind of thing. But you won't find the Jah except for that one time we've mentioned before. So she said that if he is made king, and he was already preparing everything for his anointing of the king and becoming king, crowning, she said that he would kill us both for our sins. And of course, he changed his mind because he's almost dead, and he had a little lady with him that they used to lay women with him, which is not a bloody bad idea when you come to think of it. You get some young woman, when you're feeling, I don't feel quite well at the moment actually. You get some young woman and they would lay in bed with the old man and keep him warm, body heat, right? And you have to be careful because the poor old thing might die of exhaustion, you know what I mean? So we've got the espousals with an S on the end of it. That's why it's hard to find that word. And he's saying, go forth, ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with a crown wherewith his mother crowned him, Bathsheba, the evil bastard, in the day of his espousals and in the day of the gladness of his heart, because he was happy he got to be king. And the first thing he did was kill his brother. Lovely chap. So Solomon married daughters of incest, offspring of the Moabite and the Ammonite, from the Lot story where he leaves with Sodom and Gomorrah, goes into a cave, his daughter's getting pissed, and then he's supposed to have sex with them, and they both conceived at that moment. So bullshit, right? Anyhow, it doesn't matter. From which he received 666 talents of gold. So here we have the first mention of the same wording of, when you read the actual verse, it's exactly the same wording as you'll find in the New Testament, Revelation 13, 18. They, the descendants of Sodom, by incest between Lot and his daughters, he married 700 wives and had 300 concubines.
Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon
Exactly
in
the
1
same
year
wording.
was 606 talents of gold.
Exactly the same wording as Revelation. That's why it's in Revelation, right? Revelation is accurate. So the base of the altar was laid out on a few huge stones sunk into the bedrock, fine line chiselled. This reveals the base of 913106 per side, 36524.24 100 years as days, and the 365 was when Enoch ascended. So they call it the Enoch circle. Now, Cain built the first city. He called it Enoch after his son. So it tells you that the first is not the same Enoch. One is the patriarchs and one is this line of Cain. So the Freemasons are trying to make it the Enoch circle of Cain, which of course it's not. But anyway, it's all part of the number codes. So we have Enoch lived the 365 years, then ascended. The 2424 of that number is Jesus in Greek. And that's not a mistake they make. When they do it, they call it 365 24.2379841. Round it off, you got Jesus, right? They don't want to do that either. Solomon is pointing to Revelation, as I said, 13:18. And he who is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, we'll show you in a moment, I think you've already mentioned it, but the number 6 is 5516. The number 100 is 5516. The number 3 score is 5516. And lastly, the 6 is 5516. You add them all together, add them to my birthday, and it gives you the transition of Venus in June the 6th, 2004. Okay, carry on, I'm getting tired.
The builders of the pyramid, all huge blue-eyed men descended from angels. The base reflects 36524.24 inches, but the first layer of masonry, smaller as the massive limestone blocks, were moved inwards, leaving a space between the chiseled lines and the blocks of 35.7625 pyramid inches, or 286.1 pyramid inches total. Smaller than the originally laid at 36524.24 pyramid inches. The baseline of the blocks is therefore telling us Solomon took daughters of incest from Sodoman. Sodoman. You know what I mean. It's almost dinner time, isn't it, Karen? I'm getting hungry. Okay, so we have then 36524.24 less 286.1 equals 36238.14 pyramid inches. And then that gives us the number 3623. In Hebrew is the same word, espousal. But this time it's the husband-to-be. Solomon 3:11, quoting, "Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals," 2861, and in the day of the gladness of his heart. Hebrew Dictionary 2861, a wedding espousal. The pyramid base reflects the layout, then reduced to 36238.14, that number 3623 from 3618. Oh, wait no, go back. Okay, all right. From Jeremiah 2:2. Go and cry in the ears of Jerusalem, saying, Thus saith the Lord, I remember thee in the kindness of thy youth, the love of thine espousals, when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in a land that was not sown. Egypt, Sodom, and the English gematria of the verse is 2040. Hebrew Dictionary 3623, bridehood, espousal. Hebrew Dictionary 2040, harak, to pull down or in pieces, break, destroy, beat down, break, destroy, overthrow, pluck down, pull down, ruin, throw down utterly. What? Solomon's world today. Quoting, the love of thine espousals when thou wentest after me in the wilderness, in the land that was not sown. Solomon searched for wives in a land where God was not. Add the verse numbers from Solomon 3:11 and Jeremiah 2:2. It equals 333, Freemasonry. Solomon around 900 BC had become king via treachery, his mother an adulteress who convinced David as he lay dying to pass over Adoniah, his legitimate son. Bathsheba told David he would kill Solomon and her, so he changed his mind and bequeathed the throne to her son Solomon.
Interesting story. The lady, or the young girl that was laying with David to keep him warm, the only thing Adonijah wanted, and when this happened, when he became king, he said to Bathsheba, all I want is that young woman for a wife.
All I want is a wife.
Why? Because she heard the treachery that was going on.
Right. So Solomon was a black witch. He used witchcraft to manifest demonic spirits. After all, man, good or bad, is a being of free will. Therefore, if enough people are gathered in any cause, they can create demons, and is where all demonic spirits come from. Man made in God's image can do that. So, evil, the demonic world is all dreamed up by the evil of man. With free will. Yeah. So as Jesus, he said free will is a gift to mankind, but it was given to do good, not evil. The earth is the footstool of Jesus, Yahweh, Mariah, all the same God. The Trinity was invented by the Church of Rome hundreds of years after 33 AD.
Well, what's that word mean, Mother?
Mariah is Lord, God, the
single,
only
one and only.
one creator.
That was in the
big
Essenes.
kahuna.
Now, in the Essenes, it was supposed to be accurate, which is not. They referred to Jesus as Jeshu Maria. But in fact, it was by then translated from the Aramaic. And of course, the Jeshu Maria was changed, or rather the Maria was changed to Jeshu Maria. Right? To lead you away thinking, oh, we're talking about the mother of Jesus and Jesus. No, it's talking about Maria being the one and only
Jehovah, Yahweh.
indivisible Father, Son,
Yahweh.
and Holy Ghost, the Comforter.
Yahweh.
Might as well get used to it.
Now there are 202 remaining layers of masonry reaching to a height of 454.5 feet. This is the average height of the landmass of the Earth.
What I mentioned.
That is level, yeah, okay, moving right along. Naturally, when the structure was completed, it reflects the 286.1 pyramid inches reduced in its base, so the maximum height being the landmass height and the center of it means the platform is smaller than the God or Christ capstone by 286.1 pyramid inches. The masonry layers, numbering 202, are all aligned with solar eclipses. The first layer represents March 17th, 1923, as the base level represents December 18th, 1922. On that date, astronomers set lunation 0, and they were in London, England. Where the moon was at that moment was below London and was 621 miles to Own. The 50th eclipse, the King's Chamber floor.
Now, On is to do with the city, and it is pronounced On, and that is where Joseph is sent to Egypt. He's only an 11-year-old boy, and as he matures, Pharaoh finds that he's very, very bright and makes him governor of all of Egypt.
After he's able to interpret dreams and all kinds of things.
He can do all sorts of things, right? So the city of On is where the god of the underworld high priests were. So he ended up being given to him by the Pharaoh, the daughter, and that's her name, which is 621 in Hebrew, and that's the distance in miles from when, at 12:20, on the date of the 18th of December 1922, the astronomers stopped the moon and made a location which was 621 miles from the city of On. So the base originally laid out at 9131.06 is where you do your calculations from. It represents 25 years because each P is a day. I had one today, didn't I?
Each pyramid inch.
Oh, come on. And this is to point to the 25th latitude, north or south, where the moon crosses at a sharp angle, which we said before. And so with it, we can actually locate within a very, very short distance. We're talking maybe a couple of 100 metres, exactly where this totality occurred. So what we have that in the next slide is the first eclipse after I was reborn on the 25th, again, same number, on January 1944. And the last is 2012, November the 14th, Prince Charles's birthday. But unfortunately for Prince Charles, this occurs in the southern hemisphere, so he misses out by about 10 hours. Sorry, Charles. Measuring from the first one, just below the Great Pyramid, is 8,888.8 miles, where I was incarcerated in the crib for till I was 942 days old. And the last one is 942 miles from my family's home, same location. And I was there for 942 days, which is how many times the word Jesus verse total is found in the King James Bible. So they had been completely suckered into setting up the entire world for one and Warep to slide in and take it over. And that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
In this drawing here, we've got the two locations, the sun line. If you look closely and if you can see the latitudes and longitudes, you can plot it on your own Magellan. Just go on eBay and buy Magellan software, and there it is. It's beautiful. It's easy. So we have the 621, which is the name Asenath of Egyptian derivation, and it is a wife of Joseph. So here we have the devil invented Freemasonry. Okay, this goes on to talk about Joseph being the 11th son.
Oh, that's That's a repeat, babe.
Well, it probably is.
Yeah.
Remember? It's good,
How
isn't
many
it?
slides have we got in this total?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
We're getting
Now,
close.
moon time via eclipses determines time, which is calculated from December 18th, 1922, when England set the moon lunations at 0. The first layer of masonry is therefore March 17th, 1923. The date chosen because it was when the moon was over a precise location. And this is just repeating all about the 621 miles from London to own the ancient city of the underworld.
Not to London. From own to the actual location of the moon over the Earth's surface. Because what you do is you take the moon,
Right.
you put a laser point straight through it to the centre of the Earth, and where it enters the sea or whatever, that is then a precise location which you can then measure along the surface of the Earth without, don't use Google Earth because it's wrong, to own.
Got it.
It is 20.4 miles to the pyramid. So the whole thing's invented. There's no city of own and all this kind of thing that they've got. You try and find it. It's all bullshit. So there it is there. It shows you on the very ancient maps that I've got here. It shows you the location right on the Nile. So Joseph called his name Zaphenath-paneah. Can you say that?
Zaphenath-paneah.
I don't know. And the daughter of Potiphar.
Potipharah.
He's the high priest, right? Find that if you can. So, New Testament, Matthew 2:15, and was there until the death of Herod. So we're talking about when my parents were coming back from Egypt, had to stay there till Herod died because he's going to kill the baby at any cost. And I was actually 24 days old when we got back to Nazareth. That it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt I have called my son. Hosea 11:1. When Israel was a child, when then I loved him and called my son out of Egypt. That's the verse they're talking to in the Old Testament. As Jesus, I was the king of Israel, rejected by the Pharisees, priesthood of Babylonian doctrine, which goes back 900 years to BC, to the time of Solomon. He was a black witch. The story goes that he had been acquainted with a rock carving which had all these symbols of pentagrams and all this sort of stuff, it is actually available on the internet. And when enough people use these as incarnations and
Incantations.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
They can produce, because they are God in the flesh, regardless of evil or not, they are able to produce demons to do their bidding. Actually, Herod died a very horrible death. He was eaten with worms, and justifiably so. So we see when the British astronomers and surveyors were duped into thinking by measure of the earth, they laying out their structures from Buckingham Palace to the Holy Lands in Egypt, they could capture the Great Pyramid for themselves. They have forgotten, or they have gotten away with it, as Yahweh did nothing. So they had outsmarted God. Bullshit. They had taken the bait. When Cook sailed to the South Pacific, he was on the trail of what they thought would be the second coming of Jesus, and no one had Jesus offered to pass, because he was there on the 3rd of June, 1769, to observe the transition of Venus. Now, he was with several people, but he had a Harrison clock, which is one of my relatives, who invented and won the Harrison Prize, which was £20,000 in those days. It's a fortune, like 20 million today. He took 50 years to build it. He's very, very methodical. 50 years, he's 70 bloody years old by the time he got the money. And it was Green, who was the astronomer royal at Greenwich, and he actually died on the trip. Of all of the men that was on board the Endeavour that sailed, they went to, after they had nothing happened, in Tahiti. They had measured and confirmed Captain Wallace, who had discovered it, 666 days earlier, which is quite an extraordinary thing. He then went to the South Pole looking for the alternative to Australia after opening his secret orders from the Admiralty, and he got as far as a wall of ice, and then they had to use barge poles to push the ship away. And on that trip back up, they had 2 Negro lads, and no one had warm clothes because they was in the tropics. Suddenly they're in the Antarctic. and 2 of them died of cold. But on the way up, they spotted, and he wrote in his ship's log, the Messier comet that had been discovered by the French astronomer Messier, and that's why you have the Messier catalogue, because so much work he'd done. On the 8th of August, when Messier discovered it in France, you add 88888, hello, Jesus' number, to that date, and you get Rhiannon's birthday the day before the crossing of the Mayan calendar's prediction of crossing the Milky Way galaxy in the year 2012 on the 20th of December. Now, I've already told anyone who's been watching this, we've already crossed it. Because the Catholic Church altered time, adding 10 days, by Pope Gregory the 13th in 1582, changing the 4th of October the next day, become the 5th. The sunlight was 666 moments. Oh, sorry, the 15th was 6. I made a mistake. Finally happened. 69 years I went to that. Where was it?
Pope
Something
Gregory
brilliant.
changed.
Oh, yeah.
Time.
Now, the Catholic Church, being stupid, when Rome was setting up time in the first place, they was having the year of the Lord 111. And of course, if you go back to 111 BC, they thought it was a day before. They missed out on counting 365 days between the 1 AD and 1 BC. So that means the whole calendar's out by 375 days, and we crossed the Milky Way galaxy equator on the 11th of December at 11:11 Eastern Australian time.
2011.
In 2011. And that's why people have been seeing 11:11 everywhere.
Yes. And that's why the weather's been up the creek. Everything's been out of sorts, if you like, with the Earth. Lots of volcanoes and earthquake activity, all relieving pressure.
It's all about.
Now, hun,
Go ahead.
it's time for dinner.
Oh, okay then. Hasta la vista, baby.
We'll be back.
Oh,
Oh.
switch it off.